Hello everyone. So this is the Adequate Random Gamer here, and we are going to be doing something a little new here. This is going to be my first tutorial. I did say that I was going to do some of those. So this is a tutorial to explain a little bit how Franchise Hockey Manager 7 works, and also for the rules of hockey. So this particular episode today is going to really focus more on hockey rules and terms and stats and jargon and everything. I'm gonna make correlations with the game per se as well, but for things that are more like roster related and building a team and everything, that's gonna be for another video later. For now, I'm going to really focus on the basics for people to understand hockey. Now, please understand, if you're a huge hockey fan and a power user of the game, this video is probably not for you. This video is really aimed more for people that really don't know a whole lot about hockey, or Franchise Hockey Manager 7 as a whole. Maybe you're coming from a different type of management game, maybe like out of the park baseball or football manager or something like that, or maybe you just have a genuine interest in hockey but don't know all that much. So I'm gonna try to make things a little bit clearer for you through this video here. Also, please note, I don't have anything written down or anything like that. I know for me personally, when I watch a video on YouTube and I can tell that somebody has memorized or is reading off a script, it makes sometimes people sound not really genuine. So I want to try to avoid that. So what you're getting is me here out in the open without any notes or anything. So there's going to be brain farts, there's going to be times where I'm looking for my words. So that's me. That's how I am. If you've followed any of my videos, you know that's how I am. I do not edit anything. I think that it's part of being me, and for good or for worse. But anyway, also, I typically don't do that. I would probably suggest that you subscribe if you want to be notified whenever I come up with another tutorial video, if that's something that interests you. I usually don't beg people or ask people to subscribe to my channel or anything like that, but for this particular one here, I'm putting it at the front instead of completely at the end of the video, so that to remind you, just in case again, that you want to learn more about the game of hockey and Franchise Hockey Manager 7, which is a pretty great hockey sim. Not perfect, but it's pretty great. Alright, so we're gonna go ahead and start here. There's times I'm gonna pause the video and reorganize everything, and also I have my face in there for the first time in a while. So anyway, so I'm gonna pause sometimes because I'm gonna want to show other things than just the ice here, but I'm going to go ahead and start by explaining really the basics of hockey. So for those of you that really don't know much about hockey, other than there's a puck and people punch each other in the face from time to time, we're gonna go ahead and go with the basics here. Now, sadly, I cannot get a view of the ice surface here where we see both nets. So what I'm gonna try and do is explain everything that I can here, and then I'm gonna go ahead and have the play. I'm gonna pause and have the little 2D play go ahead and play, and whenever we see the net and everything, I'll pause and we can go ahead and take a look at that. Alright, so the ice surface has a bunch of lines, dots, colors, and whatnot, and it might look a little bit daunting for somebody that knows nothing about hockey, but it's really not that complicated. Alright, so for the purpose of this video here, try to focus a little bit on my mouse cursor if you can. Well, you can't see it, so that's... oh, wait. All right, now you can. All right, so in this particular instance here, okay, I have Chicago playing at Ottawa now. Okay, those of you who don't know me, Ottawa is my favorite team. Yes, I know we're in a rebuild, so we're not winning a whole lot lately, but it's part of the process. But anyway, so Chicago at Ottawa. So for the purpose of this video here, Ottawa's net is over here, so that means that Matt Murray, well, it's Anders Nilsson in that particular game, but our goaltender, Ottawa's goaltender, is on the right side here protecting the net, and then Chicago has, for that particular game, Malcolm Subban in net, and they are protecting that, he is protecting that net over there. So in hockey, you have, at any point in time, unless there's a penalty, and we'll get to that eventually, you have 3 forwards, 2 defense, and 1 goaltender playing. So, and of course, the goal of the game is to score more goals than the other team. Duh. I think anybody can figure that out. So whenever you watch hockey or you're talking about hockey, people will say the puck is in Ottawa's zone. They always refer to the defensive zone. So in that case, if somebody says that the puck is in the Ottawa zone, it would be somewhere in the right side here. And the zone is from the blue line all the way to the back of the net. So that would be considered Ottawa's zone. And okay, similarly from here, that blue line all the way to the net and behind the net on that side, that would be considered Chicago's zone. And then between both blue lines, that's what's considered neutral zone. So a lot of times you watch hockey or you talk about hockey with people that like hockey, and they're gonna say stuff like oh, Chicago is really clogging the neutral zone or something like that. So what that usually means is that Chicago, in that example, would be trying to play pretty tight defense into that area here. And there's a reason for that. And the reason for that is that if you play tight defense in the neutral zone, then when you try to attack, so, Ottawa is here and they're trying to attack, right? So they're going to get the puck somewhere and they're going to try to go in here so that they can get to the net over there and shoot the puck and score, right? So that's the goal of the game. Now, if you pay close attention to the neutral zone, it's harder for the opposition to get into the zone with speed. So let's say you play pretty lax here and you don't really check, that area of the ice here. Now, Ottawa can, pass the puck, and the guy that would get the puck here, for example, if there's nobody near him here, like if everybody's down here, well, you can start skating and getting with speed to get into the zone and get to the net to get a shot. The thing is that the defenders for Chicago, they would be back skating, right? And you go faster, typically at least, you go faster going forward than going backwards. So that's why most teams try to have a pretty sound defense in what's called the neutral zone. So I wanted to bring that up because if you watch hockey, that's something that comes up a lot, and it might not make a lot of sense for people because, well, why would they want to protect the neutral zone or defend in the neutral zone? Why do they want to do that? Why don't they focus on defending in their own zone? Well, that's the reason why. That's because you want to try as much as possible to prevent the other team from getting access to your zone with speed and, with control of the puck and everything. So that's the neutral zone. And of course you have the red line here, which is exactly at middle ice in any rink, and then you have the blue lines that are there to help determine which zone is which. So the dots, so you see red dots here, those are only for face-offs. That's all the purpose that they serve. So if there's a stoppage of play for any reason other than a penalty shot, there's going to be a face-off. So a face-off is when both teams get together and there's 2 guys that face each other trying to win the puck. The referee drops the puck and they try to get the puck by sweeping it to to a teammate or something like that. So that's the only reason that those circles are there. They don't serve any other purposes than to be a spot where you make a play, not a playoff, a face-off. Sorry. All right, so we have the net here, right? And this is Ottawa zone. We already cleared that up. This is what's considered Ottawa zone. This is a neutral zone. We already talked about that. There's not a whole lot other than that to the neutral zone, other than, well, as the term implies, it doesn't belong to anybody. And typically you're going to have a lot of the game that's going to happen in middle ice here in the neutral zone. And then we have the opponent zone over there. So now we're going to go ahead and talk about the red line in the middle of the ice. So there's a term in hockey that you might have heard before that is called icing. So icing has nothing to do with the surface that the players play on. It is a term in which it is a forbidden dump of the puck is probably the best layman's terms I can use for that. So now again, let's say that, Ottawa gets the puck over here, and then, over here they decide, hey, you know what, I'm just going to dump the puck all the way in the corner, behind the goal line, all the way there. So that would be considered an icing. For the dump to be legal, you have to have the puck all the way across the middle line here. So if you do it from here, coming from the right here, you skate, you come here, you dump it all the way in the corner, that's an icing, so that's not good. Now if you go all the way over here and you send it in the corner, you're fine because you crossed the red line. So all an icing implies is that there's a stoppage of play. And now in modern day, then they bring the puck in the defender's zone, so the culprit's zone, if you want. So again, if Ottawa comes here, dumps the puck over there, so it would probably be in the face-off circle here, right? So then there would be a face-off also new from, I want to say about 8-10 years ago. The team that ices the puck cannot change their players. Now it used to be that players would get tired and then they would like ice the puck because they were just too tired to try to skate it to center ice, and then they would go and change and bring fresh players. So the NHL decided to change the rule for that, and now the team that ices the puck cannot change their players. So if you do that out of being tired, well, too bad, so sad. You get to stay there, and you have to try to fight it off some more. There's not really any other usage for the red line at the middle ice. Now, what you have to understand is that most of what I'm going to tell you through my tutorial videos have to do with, first of all, the NHL and a little bit more modern day. So hockey has a very complicated and very what would be a good word for it? Very complicated and all over the place history. Hockey changes their rules a lot and things like that, so a lot more than other sports. So I'm gonna try to keep everything about the NHL and modern day for the most part. So there used to be another use, and that's why I said all of that. There used to be another use for the red line that you see here, and it's that back like in the 80s and before that, it was forbidden to make what was called a two-line pass. So basically you couldn't be like over here and make a pass to a player over here because the pass would cross two lines. But that's not a rule anymore. They got rid of that to try to generate more offense. So they got rid of that somewhere at the start of the 90s or mid 90s or something like that. But yeah, it used to be a thing. You couldn't like make a pass from ear to ear. That was illegal. So they got rid of that. So we talked about the dots, we talked about line at center, we talked about the zones, we talked about icing, and now we're going to talk about another term that doesn't make much sense for newcomers to the sport of hockey, and we're going to talk about offsides. So what is an offside? So as some of you might know already, I was born in Canada, but I live in the middle of the US where, hockey is not super popular here. So I've had to explain offsides a few times, and the best way that I found to explain it in layman's terms that makes it so that it makes sense for people is whenever you're attacking and trying to enter the other team's defensive zone, the puck has to be the first thing that crosses the blue line. That's the easiest way that I can explain it. So, like I said, there's 5 players on the ice, right? And then a goaltender. The goaltender stays by the net, so he's not, going to go score goals or anything. So, you have the 5 guys, and of course the 5 guys on the other side, and then you try to get into the zone, and they're, checking you and trying to prevent you from going in and everything. So if you carry the puck here and you try to go all the way through the middle here, you have your wingers here that are going to be trying to get in as well. So if the guy down here crosses the blue line before I cross the line in the middle here with the puck, then that's an offside, because that guy is in the zone before the puck is. Now if I control the puck and I enter and nobody's there, I'm fine, because the puck is with me and it's going in first. For the same thing, if a guy falls down over here and then the puck goes this way and then quickly goes the other way, well, we have that guy over here, the puck exited the zone. So for the puck to come back in, we need for the guy that fell over here to exit the zone first, so that the puck can be the first thing to get into the zone. So in a nutshell, that's what offside is. That's all offside is that somebody got into the zone before the puck did. That's as simple as I can explain it. There's a few little nuances to that, and the NHL has adopted a new rule for this year where your skate doesn't necessarily have to touch the line. It can be in the air. That used to be like a big point of contention, at least for the past few years, but that's new. So offside, just keep in mind, it's an offside if somebody other than the puck or the puck carrier gets in the zone first, or if you try to bring the puck in when you still have another guy in there. That's all you have to remember for offsides. When there's offsides, the play stops, and then they have a face-off like in one of those dots here. So that's pretty much for the it for the ice surface. I touched on a couple things, and of course, if there's something that's excuse me, that's not clear, please feel free to ask in the question, not in the questions, but in the comment section. I try to be pretty active and answer everybody. Also, if you have suggestions on things that you want for me to talk about, go ahead and ask away. Keep in mind I have other videos planned and everything, but that's something that I can look into adding to either one of my videos or do a video altogether about it, if that's not planned already. I'm pretty open to feedback usually, positive and negative. If you have negative things to say, do that with respect, please. Yay. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and pause here for a second. I've explained, basic rules and, the ice surface and everything. I'm gonna go ahead and sim until I can get a clear shot of one of the goal and with the goal line and everything. Then I'll explain that real quick, and then we're gonna look at stats and a little bit more jargon and everything, and I'll be right back here. Alright, and we are back. Alright, so Now we have a clear shot at the net here, so the little square here is Malcolm Subban, and he's protecting the net. So we have a few more things to look at here that we couldn't see before. So on the ice surface, you have what's called here the goaltender's crease. So that's that blue area here. So that's the crease where the goaltender should be protected. So again, I explained earlier, the NHL has a very complicated history where they like to change rules. So for a while, at the end of the 90s, mid-90s up to, start of the 2000s, they were very strict about that area here. And during that period of time, if, you had a player that had just like a little bit of his skate in that zone, and that this guy here shoots and he scores, and you have a guy here with just a little bit of the skate, the goal was disallowed because you were in the crease. Now the crease is almost more symbolic than anything. Now of course, if you go and try to crash in the goaltender, on purpose and everything, you're gonna get penalized for that, maybe even suspended, depending on what you're doing. But there's not like strict rules where you cannot have your skate in that zone or anything like that, like it used to be. It's a lot more of a case-to-case basis. So like if a player was to be around here, like really close or inside here, it's more about, did they prevent the goaltender from doing their job? So that's what they look at when there's a video replay. So if you shoot the puck and there's a guy here, did that guy touch or prevented number 30 here from trying to do the save, from trying to stop the puck? If the video review shows that no, the guy was in the paint here, but he did not prevent the goaltender from doing its job, then the goal is going to be allowed. Otherwise, if they decide that, hey, you know what, 30 couldn't stop the puck because he tried to catch the puck with his glove, and he hit the player instead, well then that player impeded the ability to make the stop, and then the goal is going to be disallowed. And then you have the goal line. So earlier I talked about icing. So I said, hey, if you're over here and you throw the puck in the corner behind the goal line, so yeah, if you're over here, you're Ottawa, you're over here, and you send the puck in the corner over there, from here on the ice, again, icing means you haven't reached the middle line here, the red line, then that's going to be icing. So that's what that line is for, to check for icing. And of course, in the net, if the puck goes in the net, it needs to completely cross the line to be a goal. So basically, the puck needs to be in the net, and you need to be able to see the white of the ice between the puck and the red line. If you cannot, the puck has not completely crossed the line, and it is not a goal. Right, and then you have those weird lines here. So that used to not be there. That showed up, I think, okay, from memory, I believe that that they put those after the lockout of 2004 and 2005, or 2005 and 2006. Anyway, the last lockout around those, that wasn't the last lockout, but the lockout around those years, sorry, they have added the what's called the trapezoid, and we can thank Martin Brodeur and guys like Marty Turco for that. So basically what happened is that some goaltenders were a lot better than others at handling the puck, and it was making them almost like a third defenseman. So remember what I said? Okay, so if you're here, you shoot the puck in the corner, it's an icing, right? But if you're here and you shoot the puck in the corner, the puck is fair game. So it's a tactic sometimes in hockey. You carry the puck past the red line, and then maybe you need to change, or maybe you just want to try something different. You dump the puck in the corner, and then it's kind of a race between, this guy and this guy here. So the first one to get in the corner to get the puck. But some goaltenders were so good at handling the puck that they would leave the net and go and get the puck in the corner over there, and then make a a crazy good pass to another player. So to kind of penalize those goaltenders, I guess, and I'm not a fan of that personally, but to kind of penalize that, or to make it so that dumping the puck in the corner is still, a strategy. They made that area here, so that what that means is that the goaltender is only allowed to play the puck in that trapezoid area. So 30 here cannot go get the puck in the corner over there to play the puck. If he does, it's a penalty. So that was an adjustment when the league came back from the lockout and everything. I personally haven't seen that penalty called in many years, because goaltenders have all adjusted to that. But the first couple of years that they had that new rule, I saw that being called a few times. Like, goaltenders would come and try to play the puck in that little area here sometimes, and they were just outside and get the penalty. You don't really see that anymore. But that was really to kind of stifle maybe what goaltenders could do, and to me that's a shame. You should never adjust your rules to penalize somebody that's a great athlete, or that is performing well, so that you can basically level at the mediocre level or something like that. So I was never a fan of the trapezoid rule. Never thought it was a good idea, and there's been a few ideas around lately that they are talking about taking that out completely, and to me that would be a pretty good idea. So that's pretty much it for as far as the ice surface goes. There's really not much more to it than that. I hope that I made sense. I know that it's not perfect with the little squares and everything, and my explanations that are not written down perfectly. I'm just trying to talk like I'm talking to somebody that's in front of me. So at the top here you have both benches. Now that's not a really good representation. The bench in real life doesn't go all the way into the the middle of the defensive zone like that, but that's okay. That's the first year that franchise hockey manager does something like that. It's not perfect. One other thing that I did not mention is teams will alternate the goal that they are protecting after each period. So the first period, so this is the first period here. You can see it right there. So, you can see it right there. So all of that time I didn't have my cursor. I'm so sorry. So, yeah, so this is the first period. So Chicago is on that side of the ice, right? So you have the goaltender here, number 30. And that's Chicago's zone. Now the thing is that in the second period the goaltenders are going to swap. So Ottawa's goaltender is going to be here, and then Chicago's goaltender is going to be in the other net. Now the thing is that the players on the bench don't change sides. So whenever you watch hockey, they're going to say something about second period is the long change or something like that. That's what they mean, because here your bench, in real life the bench should be about from here to about here. Like usually it goes just a little bit above the blue line and up to about here. So you have your players here. So in the first period that's not too bad. Like number 2 is tired. Okay, he goes all the way to the bench, like around where the blue line is, and he goes for a change. He opens the little door, or somebody opens it for him, gets in, and he changes. Now in the second period, now number 2 is going to be all the way to the right here, so to change he has to skate all the way over there. So sometimes in the second period you're going to see players get a lot more tired, especially if you get stuck in your zone for a while defending, because you have that long change. It's a lot harder to go and change. And then in the third period they are going to come back to this side here. So that's about it for the for the ice surface, and now we're gonna go ahead and talk about the stats a little bit. I'm not gonna talk about the stats as in player ratings in Franchise Hockey Manager and what they mean. Those should be in the manual, and there's a tooltip into the game that shows you what everything does and the roles of the players and everything. If there's something that's not clear, you can ask me and I'll go ahead and try and explain it for you. But we're gonna go ahead and take a look at the stats. What you have here are the most basic stats in hockey. For the past 10 years or so, 9-10 years, there's been a big boom on what's called advanced stats. I'm not going to touch advanced stats in my tutorial videos. They are a little bit more complicated. I might, just explain what the essence of them is, like, as a whole, but I'm not going to go into, depth about what Corsi is, or expected goals or anything like that. I'm not going to touch that. I'm really just going to focus on what the game has and the basic stats of hockey. So when you look at the stats here, the stats sheets for your players, the first three stats here, GR, OGR, and DGR, those are specific to Franchise Hockey Manager. It stands for game rating, offensive game rating, and defensive game rating. So basically, an overall game rating for the player, and then offensive game rating and defensive game rating. So basically, how did the player play overall, and how did the player do offensively and defensively. So every player, whenever they start a game, they start at 50 for that particular game, and then the ratings fluctuate depending on the type of game that a player has. There's, as far as I know, we don't have access to what the formula is for what constitutes the game ratings per se. So of course, offensive game rating has to do with offense and everything, but even then we don't know exactly what goes into that. And because of that, that's not my favorite stat, not because it's made up by out of the park development, but because I don't know what's going in there, and also for having played every single iteration of this game, I also noticed that the rating that the player gets is tied a little too much to how good they are. So for example, if you have a 4 or 5 star rated player, so a really, really good player, and that player gets let's say 2 assists in a game, so for his offensive rating he might get a 85. Okay, those numbers are kind of made up, but it's to give you an idea. Now, if you have in the same game a player that's a 1-star player that gets 2 goals and 2 assists, well, he might have a 57 offensive rating, and to me it makes no sense. I don't think that how good a player is, as a player, I don't think it should impact their game rating for that particular game. If the guy scored 2 goals and 2 assists, let him be an 85 for that game rating. It doesn't affect his ratings or anything like that. It's just kind of an indication of how well a player plays. So if you are to play a season and everything, you can go and look at the game ratings after you want to give it a little bit for small sample size purposes, but go and check after 50 games or something like that, and you're gonna see that for the most part the highest game ratings are going to be your top players, and then the lower ones are going to be the less rated player, because it feels like the lowest rated player never have a shot at getting a good game rating, regardless of what they do. So for that reason, I'm not a fan of it. I think that if they could take that out of the equation, I think I would like it a lot more, but as it is right now, I cannot say that I'm a fan. Alright, so next stat that we have is G. That stands for goal. That's pretty straightforward. I hope I don't really have to explain that one too much. You shoot the puck at the net, the goaltender can't stop it, and it goes in, you get a goal. You get 3 goals in the same game, that's called a hat trick. So if you ever watch hockey and you see that the fans are all throwing their hats on the ice, that's what it means. That's a hat trick. That means that player scored 3 goals in the same game. Those used to be fairly common, back in the day, but those are a lot rarer. Like around 2020, those are a lot rarer. And also, for a season, a player that scores 50 goals in 2020 is considered really elite. But, in the 80s and 90s, you would have, I don't know, maybe 10, 12, 15, 20 players score 50 goals a season. In 2020, you're lucky if you get one. So that's pretty rare. Then, you have the next year after that, 40 goals. That's pretty good. You still don't have a whole lot of those. Then you have 30 goals a season. Those are a little bit more common, but that's still pretty solid as well. So there's less goals scored now, across the league than there were like 20, 30 years ago. Oh, God, I'm old. 30, 40 years ago. Okay. So, yeah. There's less goals scored now than there were, like, when I was a kid. It was pretty commonplace when I was a kid to see a 8-5 game. Now it's pretty rare. I mean, it happens, but it's pretty rare. No, it was very common back then. All right, so next you have the assist. I pass the puck to Joe. Joe passes the puck to Robert. Robert shoots and he scores. Well, I get an assist and Joe gets an assist because we're the last 2 people that touched the puck before Robert scored his goal. In that particular instance, Joe would have what is called the primary assist because he's the one who passed the puck straight to Robert before he scored his goal. So, I would still get an assist, but the primary assist would be considered to be Joe's. There's not really a distinction for, points or anything like that. The primary assists are mostly used for advanced stats, so I'm not really gonna get into that too much, but just so you know, the last guy who touched the puck before the goal scorer is considered to be the one with the primary assist. Also, this is kind of a modern day thing to have 2 assists on a goal, and there's not always 2 assists on a goal. Like if 16 here gets the puck all by himself and nobody passes it to him and he scores, then it's going to be unassisted. But back at the start of the 80s and things like that, there would only be 1 assist max per goal. They wouldn't give me an assist in that particular scenario. They would only give the assist to Joe. So that's kind of new. So of course, players that get a lot of assists are usually seen as good playmakers because they have a tendency to make good passes to score goals. Alright, so, and of course, it's not shown here, but then there would be another column here that would say P for points. Your points is only your total of goals plus assists. That's all it is. Alright, so then we have the mystical stat that's called plus minus. So a lot of hockey fans like myself have kind of a love-hate relationship with that stat, in that when I was growing up, that stat was useful because we didn't have anything better. But now with all of the advanced stats and everything, that the plus minus stat is kind of obsolete a little bit. So basically, the whole idea of the plus minus stat is to try to show the defensive capabilities of a player, or how much they are on the ice when goals are scored, or how often they are on the ice when goals are scored against. So at the most basic level of the stat for plus minus, if I'm on the ice and 88 scores here and I'm on the ice, I get a minus for that. If I'm on the ice and 88 scores again, I'm another minus, and then I'm -2. Then if I'm on the ice and 72 scores, then I'm +1. So in that particular scenario, I would be back to -1. So basically, whenever you're on the ice and a goal is scored, you're a minus. Whenever you're on the ice and a goal is scored, you're a plus. So at the end of the season, if you're a +37, that means that you were on the ice for 37 more goals scored for your team than against. Now, there's a few problems with that stat as far as its relevance goes. First, because I'm on the ice and that we have a goal scored against us, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's because I played poorly defensively or that I didn't check my guy. The action might be happening all on the other side of the ice. I could be down here checking the puck, checking my player and everything, and be in perfect position, but I still get penalized because plus-minus is really more of a team stat than an individual stat. That's the main problem with it. Another thing too is, and that's where it might get a little bit more complicated. So let's say we're killing a penalty, okay, and I'm gonna address penalties here in a minute. Let's say we're killing a penalty. So when you kill a penalty, you are down a player. So it's not like a flag in football where you lose yards or anything like that. So if 72 trips number 7 here, 72 is going to be gone for 2 minutes. So we have to kill that penalty for 2 minutes. That means that Chicago has 5 players and we have 4 on the ice. So of course they have an advantage, right? However, if Chicago scores during that time, because they have one more player, the players that are on the ice while the goal is scored do not get a minus. So whenever you are on the power play, so we don't get a minus and their players do not get a plus either because they had already the advantage. Just give me 1 second, please. However, okay, and hopefully you've been following so far. So if we're 5-on-5, we score a goal, I'm +1. They score a goal, I'm -1. They have 5 players, we have 4. They score a goal, we don't get a minus. They don't get a plus. However, if we are 4 and they are 5 and we go and we score a goal, we get a plus and their 5 players get a minus. So it makes sense. Does it make sense? I hope it does. So the plus-minus is really more of a team stat, as you can see, because it's really about, well, am I on the ice when a goal is scored, and am I on the ice when when we allow a goal? And I explain how maybe I'm checking my guy here just fine, and the action is here and they score. Why am I being punished for that? Well, for the same thing. If I'm hanging out here and we are on offense and the play is all happening here and they score, I still get a plus here even though I didn't do nothing. So it's really more of a team stats. I will say this, I don't really check plus minus all that much, but I will look at it for outliers. So at the end of a season, if you have a guy that's +37 and the next highest one behind him is +5, then maybe you have a pretty special player there because the difference is so big. On the same token, if you have a guy that's -29 and the next lowest is 0, then maybe that guy is really struggling defensively. But when everything is kind of close together, I don't really worry about it because everything is very situational at that point, and that's where I personally turn to advanced stats for that kind of stuff. But since I'm not explaining those, the plus-minus stat is kind of an indicator of, how good a player is at controlling the puck or, allowing goals. So you can keep an eye on it. but there are better tools out there, and when you get a little bit more comfortable about hockey and the stats and everything, you might want to look into advanced stats and realize that plus minus might be a little bit outdated. Now, back in the 90s, that's all we had. That was awesome for that, but I think that there's better tools for that now. Now, S is for shots, so that one is pretty easy. I shoot on the goaltender, he stops the puck, that's a shot. I shoot, the goaltender doesn't touch it, it goes in the net, that's a shot. Now, here's the thing that people that first learn about hockey might not know. If I shoot the puck and that I hit the post, it is not a shot on goal. It is not considered a shot on goal to hit the post with your shot. So the goaltender has to make a save or the puck has to go in the net. So that's pretty much all it is. And it doesn't matter if you shoot from ear or from ear, a shot is a shot. SB stands for shots blocked. Again, pretty straightforward. 72 takes a shot here and number 2 gets in the way. Yeah, that's a block shot. Yeah, as long as he blocks it, as long as he touches the puck. Goaltenders don't get shots blocked. They get saves, so that would be shown here. We're going to get to the goalie stats after I go through the skaters stats. So shot block are for forwards and defensemen on a team. Now, PIM stands for penalties in minutes. So whenever you take a penalty, you get assigned a certain amount of minutes of penalties. Usually it's 2, sometimes it's 4, sometimes it's 5, sometimes it's 10. Sometimes you get a game misconduct. So, as you may or may not know, hockey is a pretty fast-paced sport, and sometimes there's penalties that are going to occur. That happens in pretty much every sport. First of all, the guys are competitive, and then you add to that hockey is pretty high-paced, so, you're going to either make a mistake or you're going to try to impede into somebody's path or something and do something that's not necessarily legal, hoping that you're going to get away with it. I'm not going to explain all of the different penalties that there are. Most of them, I would say probably 70% of or 75% of the penalties are what's called a minor penalty. Tripping a guy, hooking a guy, roughing a guy, as long as it's not overboard or anything like that. So that's a 2 minutes. So whenever you get a penalty, you get to the penalty box. The penalty box is always at the other side of the ice from the bench. So we have the bench up here, right? So the penalty boxes would be at the bottom here. And you go in there, and then you have to serve your 2 minutes. So for 2 minutes, your team is without you, but they are down 1 man as well. So that's called a 5-on-4. And the team that's penalized has to kill that 2 minutes, or if the other team scores during that, which is called a power play, then they get. Well, obviously they get the goal, and then you get to come out early, but you've allowed a goal, so that's not good. So that's the most basic penalty, and that's the one you're going to see the most during a hockey game, is the 2 minutes. Then you have what's called the double minor. That's going to be a 4 minutes. Typically, you're going to see that almost exclusively for eye stick penalty. So whenever you hit a player in the face with your stick, that's called an eye stick penalty. If there's no apparent injuries, that's going to be a 2 minutes. But sometimes you get a guy, in the teeth or, in the nose or something, and there's blood a little bit, or, some kind of injury, some marks in the face. That's when the referee is going to give a double minor, so a 4-minute penalty. So a 4-minute penalty is basically 2 minutes penalties, one after another. So it's not like a one block of 4 minutes. So usually when you take a 4 minutes, there's another guy that's going to come into the bench with you, the penalty bench with you, so that if your team kills the first 2 minutes, the other guy comes out, and then you start serving your second 2 minutes. So that means that in that case here again, if 72 takes a double minor on 7 here, So 72 is going to go for a 4-minute penalty. Again, it's 2 blocks of 2. So Chicago basically has 2 power plays back to back where they can score. So if they score on the first power play, the other guy is going to come out of the bench, and then 72 is going to start serving his second 2 minutes, and then Chicago can score again, and then that's over. 72 is out, and then 2 goals have been allowed, and it's terrible. So that's pretty much it for the double minor. Those are pretty rare, and like I said, usually it almost always only happens with an Icing. Then you have the 5-minute majors. So there's really 2 types of 5-minute majors. So the first one is a fight. So 72 jumps number 2, they fight, they both get a 5-minute major. They are coincidental penalties, so nobody gets a power play. They both get 5 minutes, so they kind of even out. So that's it. That's all. Those 2 players are unavailable for 5 minutes. They are in the penalty box for 5 minutes, but their teams are not down a man. Now there's another type of major penalty where you do something really bad, like attempt to injure, or usually it's something pretty severe. It's at the discretion of the referee whether to give a 5 minutes or not, but usually whenever the referee feels like there was an attempt to injure another player, or that it was a really dangerous play, then they're gonna go and give a 5-minute major. So here's the thing with a major. Okay, first of all, the player is unavailable for 5 minutes, so your team is down a man for 5 minutes, but if the other team scores, your penalty is not over. So in that case, 72, roundhouse kicks 7 in the throat with his skate, terrible thing to do, goes into the penalty box for 5 minutes. Well, if you were to do that, he would be ejected from the game, but that principle is the same. That would be a 5-minute power play for Chicago. Chicago can score 7 times on that 5 minutes if they want. Well, if they can. That penalty does not expire. It's a full 5 minutes, and the team getting the 5-minute power play can go ahead and score as many times as they want. So and then you have sometimes 10 minutes that are given. The 10 minutes are never a power play per se. They are just kind of a penalty that you assign to a player for being unruly, I guess. Not in the sense that he tripped somebody, but for like weird stuff like spitting on somebody. You might get like a 10-minute what is called a 10-minute misconduct, and then that player is unavailable for 10 minutes, but their team is not down a man for 10 minutes. So that's pretty much it for penalties. Again, if you want to see what all different type of penalties there are, I probably would recommend that you maybe visit NHL rules website or something like that to look at everything that you can do wrong in a game. There's quite a bit. All right, and then we have hits here, so that's pretty easy. You hit a player that has the puck, you get a hit. That's pretty much it. If you hit a player that doesn't have the puck, usually you're going to get a penalty. So the hits are really for trying to separate the puck carrier from the puck. I know that it's really spectacular when there's a big hit and that the guy like flips over in the air and everything, and that it looks crazy. I know it's pretty cool and I like it too, but really the main intent of a hit is to separate the puck carrier from the puck so that you can steal it. So that's what that's about. HF stands for shifts, so that's the amount of times that a certain player jumped on the ice to play. So 19 here jumps on the ice to come and play, that's a shift. He gets out, then he comes back a minute and a half later, that's his second shift, comes out, that's what it is. And TOT is time total on, well, it's the total ice time, so that's the amount of time a certain player has been on the ice playing hockey. So in that case here, the Brincat has been on the ice for 1:46 since the start of the game, but Janmark has not played yet. He has 0 time. Alright, and then we have the goaltenders, and I'm sorry, I know it's a really long video, and it's just me talking and everything, but before I get into, Franchise Hockey Manager 7 per se, and that I look at the modes and everything, I want to make sure that people understand the basics of the stats and everything, because if you don't know what plus minus is, and that you're trying to get a player that's good defensively, well, you're missing out on some information that you might have. But anyway, so goaltenders, GR is for game rating as well, so it's kind of the same situation as over here. I'm not going to reiterate how I feel about that. SA is for shots against, so that's how many shots the goaltender faced. GA is for goals against, so how many of those went in, and SV is for saves, how many of the shots he has saved. So in this case here, he received one shot and he saved it, so he's 1-on-1 for saves. No goals have been scored yet. And then you have your save percentage. So that's a pretty important stat for a goaltender. Now, if you're playing modern day, like starting in 2020, you want to look at that. And now keep in mind sample sizes, right? You don't want to judge a goaltender for just 1 or 2 games. Everybody has a stretch of good or bad play, so 2 games in a row doesn't make a season. But for a season overall, you want to look at that stat. Anything under 900 is terrible. That there's no way around that. Between 900 and 905, that's still not that good. Between 905 and 910, it's better, but just a little bit under average for the league. Usually the league average should be between 910 and 915. So any goaltender that gets around those numbers is playing average goaltending, so not too terribly good but not too terribly bad. And then between 915 and 920, you have a goaltender that's playing above average for the league, and then 920 and up is considered pretty good. And then if you have somebody above 930, you have somebody that's elite at that point. So keep that in mind when you're looking at that. Basically, the save percentage is how many what's the percentage of the pucks that I'm stopping that I'm receiving. So if I get 10 shots and I allow 1 goal, I'm gonna be at 900. So on average, and those numbers are old by maybe 3 years or something like that, but they should still be around pretty accurate. But on average, an NHL team is going to score on every 11 shots on goal that you take. So if you take 33 shots on goal, you should expect about 3 goals from your team out of that. But, things come into play. Sometimes you're going to score 6 on 25. You never know. But on average, an NHL team scores 1 goal per 11 shots that they take. TOI is time on ice, and then penalty minutes, because goaltenders can take penalties as well. And that's pretty much it for individual stats. There's a few more, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to quick sim to the end of the game, and I will be right back to look at that. Alright, so initially I thought that the other window where I was reading the stats had all of that stuff here, but it doesn't. So we're going to go ahead and just go. So as you can see, my Suns lost 1-0 to the Blackhawks in that preseason game. So I wanted to look at the other stats that we find here. To kind of make it complete. So those are the same. So game rating, offensive game rating, defensive game rating. I already talked about those. We talked about goals, assists, plus minus, shots on goal. So MS here is going to be for missed shots. So I take an attempt at shooting the puck, and it goes 10 feet above the net. That's a missed shot. So that's what it is. BS is for blocked shots. We talked about that. Somebody takes a shot, I get in front of it, I block it with my butt or something. It's, that's blocked. Penalties in minutes. We talked about that. So, see, Connor Murphy here took a minor penalty. He has a 2 minutes here. 2 minutes here as well for Jonathan Taves. So those two guys took minor penalties. They got 2 minutes. We talked about that. HT is it. And then we have those two stats that I wanted to talk about here. TK and GV. So TK is a takeaway. So basically what that means is you stole the puck from an opponent in one way or another. So maybe you hit him and then, took the puck and went away with that. That's a takeaway. If you intercept a pass and keep control of the puck, that's a takeaway. If you come from behind of a player and lift his stick and take the puck and get away with it, that's also a takeaway. So usually takeaways are an indication of smart hockey IQ and positioning and defensive capability. So the Sens, the Ottawa Senators, had one of the best forwards at it that the league has in Mark Stone. Now, we traded Mark Stone away, but he's one of the best in the league at that. And Mark Stone is not a fast skater. He is not. If Mark Stone for some reason watches that, I'm sorry, buddy. I loved you as a Sen, but you are not a fast player. But what Mark Stone is always well positioned, and he's well positioned because his hockey IQ is through the roof. He reads the play better than most other players in the league, and that's why every year he's among the top players in the takeaways. And then you have GV, which is kind of the opposite stat. It's a giveaway, so it's how often you have control of the puck and you lose it to an opponent. So of course that's not a good stat to have. TK is a good stat to have. That means that you gain possession of the puck for your team. GV means you gave possession away, which is not good. You need the puck to score goals, right? So without the puck you don't score. So GV is giveaway. So I try to pass the puck to somebody, but somebody intercepts it. That's a giveaway. I'm skating and somebody comes from behind me, lifts my stick and get the puck from me. That's a giveaway. A lot of times, and that's something that surprises a lot of people, a lot of times if you look at who are the worst at giveaways in any given season in the NHL, you're gonna look at the top 10 worst giveaway players. They are almost always some of the best players in the league. And the reason for that is that the best players in the league tend to have the puck a whole lot more than, the average players. And they also try a lot to do, high-end plays and everything because they have the talent to pull it off. That means that they are a lot more at risk to turn the puck over. That doesn't mean that they're not good defensively. That doesn't mean, that they suck or anything like that. That just means that overall, your best players try more plays than anybody else, so they are at more risk to turn the puck over. It's just logic, The more attempts that you make at making a pass, the more likely that you're gonna get your pass intercepted. If I try, 30 passes in a game, well, that's 30 opportunities for the opposition to intercept my pass, as opposed to Joe next to me who tried to pass the puck only twice. Well, he has only 2 chances of having his passes intercepted. So that's why in any given year, if you look at who turned the puck over the most, usually you're going to see like the Crosbys and the McDavids and the McKinnons and those players that are really talented, that get a whole bunch of points that you see on the highlight reels, all the time, scoring all of those cool goals and everything. Well, they're also the ones who give the puck away the most of the time because they have the puck so much. Alright, so we talked about shifts, total time on ice. PP is the time spent on power play by that player. So Cody Franzen spent 4 minutes and 16 seconds on the power play in that particular game, and SH is the amount of time spent killing penalties short-handed. So Franzen, for example, spent 4 minutes and 16 seconds on the power play but didn't kill penalties. So that kind of tells us that he's probably a little bit more of an offensive-minded defenseman. Newsflash, he is. But that's kind of what that tells us here. And then EV is the amount of even strength time spent on the ice. So his total minus that is going to be the amount of even strength. And then we have finally the last three stats that I wanted to talk about. We have FOW, FOL, and FO percentage. So that stands for face-off wins, face-off lost, and face-off percentage. So remember a while back at the start of this video, I explained how there's face-offs all the time and on those dots on the ice. Well, whenever you have two players facing off against each other, one of them is going to actually win the face-off. So if this guy here wins the puck and sends it to one of his players, he's considered to have won the face-off. So for that stat, usually the centermen are the ones who take most of the face-off, but sometimes wingers will have to take face-offs. I'm not gonna get into that all too much, but that's a stat that's also considered to be kind of on the defensive side of things. So if you win a lot of face-offs, you're getting possession of the puck for your team. So a guy that's really good on face-offs might be asked to take, first of all, more face-offs than anybody else on the team, but also the ones in the defensive zone, because in the defensive zone you want to win the puck as much as possible so that you can get the puck out and not allow a goal. So for that particular stat, it's pretty easy. 50% is pretty much average. Anybody above 50% is considered to be good at face-offs, and anybody under 50% is considered to be pretty bad. Sometimes you have guys that are almost at 60% or even a little bit higher than 60%. Those guys are usually considered to be elite at taking face-offs, and a lot of times you're going to see their names to win the best defensive forward of the league. So that's a thing to keep in mind. Is there more for the goaltenders? No, the goaltenders, we've talked about all of their stats here. Yeah, so again, we have all of those stats, but as a team here. So, for that particular game here, Chicago took 32 shots, Ottawa took 28. Chicago had 4 penalty minutes, Ottawa 6. So if you divide that by 2, that's 2 penalties for Chicago and 3 for Ottawa. Hits were 22-17 for Ottawa. Giveaways, Chicago gave the puck away 10 times, Ottawa 6. Takeaways 9-11, and then the face-off 1. So Ottawa won 15 of 24 face-offs total. Whew. All right, so I think I'm gonna go ahead and stop here for today. So again, I just wanted to introduce, what the ice surface is, explain what the zones are, explain a little bit of the different verbiage about hockey. I hope that I made things clear. If it's not, you can ask in the comments. I will be more than happy to try to clarify it for you. I don't have an accent when I type, so that might be a little bit easier for you to understand. I do know I have an accent. French is my first language, so it happens. And keep in mind, as I go forward with those videos, those little tutorial videos, I'm going to get a little bit more in depth about, Franchise Hockey Manager, the game itself. So first I wanted to kind of cover what hockey is and, the rules a little bit and the stats and what that means. I tried to put things into context as much as I could. I hope that I made things a little bit clearer. Let me know in the comments. Let me know if there's things you would like for me to touch, if there's things you don't understand, things you would like for me to add. Do you want my face gone in the next video? I mean, I don't care. I can, just turn off my camera. That's not a problem. Do you want more examples? I mean, I'm open for any kind of feedback that you have, as long as it's respectful. That is all that I ask. But yeah, for today, that's gonna be it. I do want to thank you for taking the time to listen to me. That was a long time talking and kind of improvising on the fly. And if you've liked the video, please feel free to like, subscribe, share, comment, and all of that good stuff. It helps little baby YouTubers like me for any kind of stuff like that you do, and it's always appreciated. And the next video, the next tutorial is probably gonna come after my second season with the Tampa Bay Lightning. So those of you that don't know, I have a Let's Play series, historical challenge with the Tampa Bay Lightning. So I am just done with my first season, and I made this video, so then I'm gonna go ahead and do the second season of my challenge, and once that one is done, I'm gonna go ahead and post another tutorial video. But anyway, so that was a long time talking. You're probably all tired, so hey, see you guys next time. Thank you.